Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome to the Wealthy Trustee webinar. So today I am going to be teaching you guys how to set up a trust so that you can protect your assets and you can build generational wealth the right way. So let me see in the chat, put a number one if you have a trust. So I see we got Teresa, Tony, Tyrone, Valerie, Willow, Shantae, John. We got Mike, Matt. We got Isaac. We got iPhone. Okay, I see a couple people have trust already. Brittany, Carla, Amina. Hey, Amina, how are you? Freda or Frida. Alicia, Emmanuel. So if you guys can come on camera, I would really appreciate it. I want to see your handsome and beautiful faces. I want you to interact with me. So if you can come on camera, if you're able to, I would appreciate that. And this is going to be an interactive webinar. So I am going to be teaching you guys how to build wealth the right way. You guys are going to learn how to build wealth like the Rockefellers, okay? This is how I built wealth. This is how a lot of other 7- and 8-figure earners built wealth, okay? So Frida says she is work at the moment. Okay, well, if those of you who are not at work, if you can come on camera, I would appreciate that. So let me tell you a little bit about me. My name is Christina Yvette. I have a brand. It's called 7 Ways to Wealth. Okay. So we teach people how to set up trust and how to acquire or set up multiple passive income streams so that the trust is self-sustaining. Okay. So you'll learn about some of those income streams tonight. All right. All right. Kenya says she's at the gym. All right. So people are tuning in from the gym, from work, from the comfort of their own home. I love that. I love that. So the way that I actually have been a trustee since 2015. So that's 9 years, you guys, that I've been operating privately with a trust. And the way that I got into becoming a trustee was through mentorship. So mentorship is super important. And what happened for me was I was actually a registered nurse and I was living paycheck to paycheck. I was doing overtime as a new nurse. So I was actually working 5 to 6 days a week. And you guys know that nurses, they actually work 12 hours. So I was working 12 hours. I had a baby. You know, my son at the time, he was 1 year old. And so I was not spending any time with him at all. And I knew that there was a different way. And so I wanted to, become financially free. And I also wanted to have another stream of income. So I went to a seminar where they were teaching people how to flip houses, signed up for mentorship. My mentor actually became my hard money lender, and he lent me 100% of the money to purchase my first property. So I was 25 at that time, and I was young, inexperienced, and I knew that anything could happen to this property. And so my mentor told me that I had to put that property in a trust. He had all of his properties in a trust. And at that time, he had over $200 million worth of assets of real estate. So I put that property into a trust because I knew that, I didn't want anybody to be able to take the property away from me, right? I knew that people could have gotten injured because the property, I was flipping it, so it was being renovated, okay? So that's why I decided to protect my assets, protect them from lawsuits, and protect them from, anyone knowing that I actually own that property. So I'm going to teach you a little bit about that today. So we are going to dive in. I'm going to share my screen. So I'm going to go through a few slides, and then after that, I will leave some time for Q&A if you guys have any questions, okay? So let's see here. All right, 1 second. All right. All right, so first things first, we're gonna learn what is a trust, right? So a lot of us, we have trust. A lot of us have heard the word trust, but we don't know what it is. And so a trust is an entity, okay? It is a living, breathing entity just like you, just like me. A trust can do anything that a natural person can do, okay? So if you could buy a house, a trust could buy a house. If you could build credit, a trust can also build credit, okay? A trust is also a private contract. So there are several different parts involved with this contract. The first part is the declaration, okay? So that's where you're declaring what it is and what it is not. So you're declaring that it's a private contract and that it's a pure trust, and you're declaring and the type of trust, and then you're declaring what it is not. So you're declaring that it's not a partnership, it's not an LLC, it's not a corporation, okay? And then the second part to the actual trust agreement is the indenture. So that is the actual agreement where you're putting the rules, the regulations, or the provisions of how you want the trust to be ran, okay? So there are several different parties involved when we're talking about a trust. The first one is the grantor. Other names for grantor is trustor or settler, okay? And so that's the person who's actually creating the trust on paper, and they're creating it for the benefit of somebody else, okay? So usually that person is the beneficiary. The grantor is the person who's going to put the first asset into the trust. The next person is the trustee. So that is the person who is the controller of the trust. So they are the individuals who are running the trust on a day-to-day basis, all the operations, and they have all the power and all the control over the assets that are inside of the trust. So they are who we call the authorized representative, okay? Because the trust can't run itself, it needs someone to run it, okay? Next, you have the beneficiaries. The beneficiaries are the individuals who are going to inherit the assets that are in the trust, and they are the ones who are going to receive those assets once the trust is terminated, okay? Or they are going to benefit from the trust, meaning getting distributions and stuff, okay? So there are several different types of trust. You have irrevocable, you have revocable, you have land trust, living trust, charitable trust, testamentary trust. So I'm going to give you a couple of categories. The first is express versus implied. So an express trust is a written trust in black and white in the contract. On the other hand, you have implied. An implied trust is an oral trust, okay? So that is where you would have an oral agreement between the grantor and the trustee, okay? Next, you have a statutory versus a non-statutory. So a statutory trust is where all the state statutes and codes are embedded inside of the contract, okay? So that means that whatever state that you set up that trust, that state can actually regulate that trust. Sometimes that trust is registered with the state, and sometimes an attorney would set up that type of trust for you. So it's limited to, it can only be operated in the state that you set it up, okay? On the other hand, the other type of trust is non-statutory, where there's no state statutes or codes. So the jurisdiction for that particular trust is actually the common law jurisdiction. So because all of the states have a common law legal system, that means that they are able to you are able to actually operate that trust in all of the states and the US territories, okay? So with that type of trust, it's better because it's not regulated by any particular state. So next you have simple versus complex. A simple trust is where it's shorter in nature and the trustee is actually forced to give distributions to the beneficiaries. On the other hand, you have a complex trust, which is longer in nature. There's more provisions and sections and articles. And with that type of trust, the trustee is not forced to give distributions, okay? Next, you have discretionary versus non-discretionary. So with a discretionary trust, that means that you have the full discretion to be able to do anything that you want to do on behalf of the trust estate, even if it's not inside of the contract. And on the other side, a non-discretionary means that if it's not inside of the trust, you cannot do it. Okay, so you're limited as the trustee. And then lastly, you have revocable versus irrevocable. Okay. So a revocable trust is where you are not you, but the grantor is actually able to make changes to the trust. Okay. So they have what we call revocability, which means that they can terminate the trust whenever they want. They could remove or replace the trustees, beneficiaries. They can make changes to the actual contract. And if they were to put property inside the trust, they could take it back. Because the grantor or the person who created it is able to have that flexibility during their lifetime to be able to make these changes, it is not fully protected, meaning that your assets in a revocable trust are not fully protected. Creditors can come after your estate, okay? So that is dangerous. Another thing is because it's not fully protected, if it were to end up in litigation, the judge can decide to pierce through that trust. If the judge pierces through that trust, that means that you have to produce the trust in court and it's going to now be a part of the public records, which is not what you want because you want your trust to be private. You don't want anyone to know that you're the trustee or who your beneficiaries are or the net worth of your estate, okay? On the contrary, you have irrevocable. An irrevocable trust is where the grantor cannot make any changes to the actual contract. They cannot take back property that they put inside the trust. The grantor cannot make any changes to who the trustees and beneficiaries are, and they cannot terminate the trust even if they wanted to, okay? And that's during their lifetime. And because the grantor cannot make any of those changes and they have what we call irrevocability, it is seen as a solidified bulletproof trust. And so that means that your assets are fully protected. And if that trust was to end up in court because of contract law being the highest form of law, they would decide not to pierce through that trust and make it public, okay? So out of all of those things, you need to determine what type of trust is best for you. So how do you actually create a trust? First, you need to determine the best type of trust for you, your family, your business, your organization, okay? So out of all the categories that I just mentioned to you, the one that I recommend is one that you have an express trust, that you have a non-statutory trust so you can use it in all 50 states and US territories, that you have a discretionary trust so that you're able to do anything and everything that you want to do. That's your full discretion. You want a complex trust. You also want an irrevocable trust. So all of those wrapped up in one is the type of trust that you want. That is what we call a bulletproof trust, okay? That's what's going to actually hold up in court in the event that you get sued or anything like that. And that's what's going to actually ultimately protect your assets, okay? So number two, you want to determine the name of the trust, okay? So when you are naming a trust, please do not name the trust after yourself, okay? If your name is John Doe, do not name it John Doe Trust, okay? Because you want to remain private. You do not want for people, society, lawyers, anybody to know that this house is associated with John Doe, that this car is associated with John Doe. So when you're naming a trust, do not name it after yourself, okay? You can name it whatever you want. You can use initials, abbreviations. You can use names like family, legacy, generation, dynasty, whatever you want, okay? But don't name it after yourself. Think about that. After you're done naming your trust, you're going to want to think about the people inside of the trust, the different parties, and you're going to appoint those people. So you're going to appoint a grantor, okay? The grantor, like I said, is going to be the person who establishes the trust on paper. So if you are creating an irrevocable trust, you do not want to appoint yourself as the grantor. You want to appoint yourself as the trustee, and you can't be both. So the trustee has all the power, all the control, gets to acquire assets, liquidate assets, everything, okay? And that's the position that you want to be in. So you can't be the creator and the controller, okay? So you want to appoint yourself as the controller, and then you're going to appoint someone else to be the grantor on paper, okay? So that person, hold on, somebody's off of mute. Let's find out who that is. George is off of mute. Tam is off of mute. We went ahead and muted them. So now you want to appoint someone else to be your grantor, okay? So that could be your brother or sister, right? A sibling, a cousin, a neighbor, a best friend, a parent, a grandparent, whoever is able to actually notarize the trust with you, okay? So then you're going to appoint beneficiaries. Those are your children or your next of kin, right? So if you was to not wake up tomorrow, who do you want to actually get the 6 figures in the bank and the house, right? That's the person that you're going to appoint to be your beneficiary. Now, when we're talking about beneficiaries and even grantors and trustees, just know that they can be entities as well as natural people, okay? And then the last thing is you're going to appoint a successor. That's going to be a successor trustee, which is the person who's going to take over after you. Because the way that a trust is designed, it's designed to outlive you, right? You are intentional about building generational wealth. That's why you came here tonight, to learn how to build the generational wealth, how to transfer your assets, how to protect your assets, how to build wealth with a trust. And so it's so vitally important for you to know that the trust is going to outlive you. The trust is going to live for 100 years, right? So you have to appoint someone to take over after you in the event that you don't wake up tomorrow, that person just picks up where you left off. That person is called the successor, okay? Number 3, you need to create the actual agreement. That's the contract in black and white. So at the end of this call, I'll show you what an actual trust agreement looks like. Number 4, you need to notarize the trust. So at that point in time, when the grantor and the trustee notarize the trust becomes legal. And now you're able to operate the trust, okay? Which is so important, because you operating the trust, the first thing that you want to do is go ahead and open up that trust fund account. We hear the terms all the time, right? Trust fund account, trust fund baby, all of that stuff. So you're going to go ahead and open up that bank account. What do you need? You need an EIN number for banking purposes, and you need the certificate of trust, because guess what? Your trust estate is private. You're not going to go register it with your city, county, or state. So no one's going to know of the existence of it. So because of that, you need a certificate of trust, which is going to serve as the proof of identity that that trust actually exists. Because let's just say that your trust is 100 pages. Well, guess what? You're not going to bring all 100 pages to the bank with you. You're only going to bring 2 to 3 pages, which is your certificate of trust, which is the summary of what's inside of the trust, right? So, or the details. So, after that, after you have opened up your bank account, now it's time for you to operate the trust. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is protect your assets, the assets that you have, right? So let's just say you have a primary residence. That primary residence is in your personal name. Let me ask you a question, okay? So let's pause right now. I'm literally going to ask you this question. If you was not to wake up tomorrow, right? And your house is in your name, how do you expect that house to be transferred to your child's name, your son or your daughter, right? So let's pause and let me hear some responses. You guys can come off mute and let me know. That house is in your personal name. Go ahead.
If you got a will.
If you have a will, okay. So if you have a will, and a will, right? On the will, what does it say? You're just saying that what?
this person gets this and this person gets this, or
Okay, that's good.
uh,
So you're pretty much putting all your wishes on a piece of paper, right? And so when you're
yeah.
putting your wishes on a piece of paper, how does the actual transfer happen? Because your house has a deed, it has a title, right? So how is that title going to be transferred to your child?
They're gonna have to go to court or something, but yeah, it's
Exactly.
a lot. It's a whole lot. Yeah, yeah,
Okay, all right. So he said it. So now you're going to force your child to go to court in order to get mom and dad's property, right?
And
yeah.
they have to go through probate court, right? And that could take sometimes a year, 2 years.
Yes, it could take 2 years,
Yeah.
3 years, 5 years. So
I got a
the,
question.
the only way, yeah, the only way for your house to be transferred to your child's name, if it's in your personal name, is by going to probate. That's the only way, by going to court. So now you're going to actually hand off that decision to a judge that doesn't know you, right? So
Right.
what was your question? So if you guys are getting
So,
value, if you guys are getting value from the information that I've been sharing so far in the last 20 minutes, can you put some fireballs in the chat, please?
so,
Go ahead, ask your question, and then we are going
so,
to continue on with the webinar.
okay. So in reference to the, when they said the will, is the living will good enough when you state exactly what you want done in the living will? Like every step, like you break it down by who you want it to go to, different things like that. Is that not good enough?
No, every single will end up in probate. There's
Got
no,
it. Okay.
there's only one way to avoid probate, and I'm gonna go through that right now. Thank you for the fireballs. Okay, I love you guys. You guys are amazing. You guys are interactive. Y'all paying attention. Love it. So let's proceed with the webinar, you guys. So that was a really good response. You are gonna have to go to court, or your children are gonna have to go to court in order to get your assets, your property. Okay. So a lot of us, we're acquiring assets. We got money in the bank, but we're not thinking, how are those assets going to be transferred? So from today on, I need you guys to have that constantly in your mind, right? You have thousands of dollars in the bank. You have a house, you have a car that's paid off, whatever it is. How are those assets going to be transferred? So now it's time for us to actually have our affairs in order. So a trust is the only way for you to avoid probate. A trust is the only way for you to actually protect your assets. What can it protect you from? It can protect you from bankruptcy, from divorce, from foreclosures, from heavy taxation, from lawsuits, from probate. Okay, we just mentioned it. So I'm actually going to give you guys a few examples of some of this. Okay, so let's just talk about divorce, right? So you have divorce is actually a lawsuit, and it's between two spouses. So everything that is inside of your personal name, right? That's in your personal name is going to be included in this divorce, okay? And usually a divorce is a transfer of wealth. So usually one person ends up with everything and the other person ends up with nothing, right? So you want to avoid that. The way you can avoid that is by putting assets into a trust, okay? Those assets that are into a trust, that are inside of a trust, are owned by the trust. The trust is not you. The trust is not your spouse. The trust cannot, anything that's inside of the trust, plus the trust cannot be pulled into that divorce settlement, okay? So if you have a house inside of that trust, that house is protected because it belongs to the trust. It doesn't belong to you, okay? So it can protect you from divorce. Now, it can also protect you from heavy taxation. A lot of us are giving away half of our income to the government, to the IRS, okay? If you're tired of doing that, well, guess what? A trust is going to be your new best friend. Why? It depends on the different types of trust. But one thing about a trust is that you actually spend the money first and then you get taxed on what's left over. Another thing is that you as a trustee determine what is considered income and what is considered not income, okay? So if 100,000 came in, but you are only saying that 10,000 of it is income, then you can only be taxed on that, okay? Which is a beautiful thing. Another thing is that within our structure, we have a specific kind of trust, which is a tax exempt trust. It's a 508c1a. trust. And with that trust, it is automatically exempt from federal taxes. I'll talk about that in a minute. But the strategy is if you're a W-2 employee or 1099 or anything like that, you can actually donate up to 60% of your income to the trust, okay? So if you make $100,000 gross per year, you can donate up to $60,000 of that money to your trust. And now, instead of you being taxed on the $100,000 that you made, you're only going to be taxed on $40,000. So you're going to be saving thousands of dollars from, from being charged taxes, okay? And now what can you do with that money? You can invest, right? You can actually be intentional about the generational wealth that you're building for you and your family. Let's talk about lawsuits, right? So, for example, let's just say that you're an entrepreneur, business owner, you have an LLC, you have a corporation, right? And somebody decides that they want to sue your business. Well, if they decide that they want to sue your business is a part of the public records, right? You went to the Secretary of State in order to set up that LLC. That LLC stands for Limited Liability Company. You hear the word limited in limited liability company, which means that you are not fully protected, right? You have limited liability, okay? So that means that if the trust was sued, then they would have limited liability and you would have the other portion of it. So let's just say that the trust is sued, you lost the lawsuit, right? And now there's a judgment, and now the business can't fulfill the judgment. Well, the judge can decide to pierce through that LLC and go after the owner of that LLC. Well, unfortunately, you're the owner of the LLC. So now the judge is going to go after you for your personal assets. So now that means that the 6 figures that you have in a bank, guess what? They are going to garnish those wages. That house that you have in your personal name, guess what? They can seize that asset, force it to be sold to actually fulfill that judgment. You don't want that to happen, okay? So on the contrary, what you're going to do is you're going to have a trust own your LLC to protect you. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Let's move on to probate, because a lot of you guys touched on probate. You guys are so smart. Y'all know exactly what's going on. Y'all going to end up in court. So the way that you are structured right now, if you do not have a trust, and if you have assets, you and your family, you're doing your family a disservice because they're going to end up in probate. You have a house, you have a car, you have 6 figures in the bank, right? And so if you had a will is a wish list. A will is going to end up in probate. There is no way that it's not going to end up in probate. The only way to avoid probate is by having a trust. That is the only way. You actually have to create your own estate, okay? Because what the process is if you didn't wake up tomorrow and you had all of those assets and you only had a will, your state is going to issue you an estate. That estate is going to be a revocable trust, which means that creditors can come after your assets, even while you're in the afterlife, okay? So what's going to happen is now that the state issued you an estate after your death, right? You can look it up. What's going to happen is all of your assets are going to go inside of that estate, the house, the car, the bank account, right? And so now what's going to happen is your estate needs to be represented in probate court by an attorney, and it's going to be in probate, right? And like, somebody said, it can take months, years. I know, I actually have a client who's been in probate for 3 years. So anyways, what's going to happen is your creditors, let's just say that you had student loan debt, credit card debt, those creditors are going to go after your estate. That judge that doesn't know you or your family from a can of paint is going to pay those creditors, right? So now your children's inheritance just went down. And now the probate attorney needs to be paid and the probate court system needs to be paid. So your children actually get the leftovers. And you're doing them a disservice if you're going to force them to go down this process, because they just lost you. right? And so they're grieving, and you want them to grieve properly, not you dragging them through the courts, even though you already knew that they were going to inherit your assets, right? And so on the flip side, let's just say you did have your affairs in order and you did have a trust. Well, you're going to avoid this whole entire process. One, your debt actually dies with you because that student loan debt and that credit card debt cannot go after your trust estate. And then there's no transfer that needs to happen because all of your assets are in the name of the trust. The trust is going to remain intact. Your children are the beneficiaries. So that is how your assets are going to be transferred because everything's going to remain the way that it is. That is how you get your affairs in order and you actually avoid probate, okay? And that's the whole process that you want to do. Let's move on. So next, let's talk about the wealth building formula, okay? That's what you guys came here for. You guys came here to learn about building wealth with a trust, okay? Just like these famous families, right? So they paved the way and we have to actually, you know, do exactly what they do. And so this is the wealth building formula. You have 3 pillars here. You have structure, you have credit, and you have invest. These are the 3 things that you need to implement, okay? So let's talk about structure. Structure is super important. This is the structure that I recommend. 1, I recommend that you have multiple trusts. You do not want to put all of your eggs in one basket. So that means that you don't want to put all of your assets in one trust. What if that trust ends up getting sued, right? So in order to avoid that, you want to have different types of trusts in your structure to maximize your wealth building and to reduce your taxes, okay? So the first trust is the business trust. With the business trust, you can operate this in 2 ways, right? So you can either structure it to where it's a holding company, and now that business trust is actually going to own your LLCs or your corporations or other entities, okay? So you can use it as a holding company. So that means that that business trust is going to be non-operational. And now what you're going to do is you're going to remove yourself as the authorized member of that LLC. You're going to add the business trust as the authorized member of that LLC. The business trust is now going to be your holding company. And that's going to be your first layer of protection in the event that somebody tries to sue your business. That is how you're going to protect yourself. Because if they try to sue your business, they're going to go after the trust, okay? And if they go after the trust, then you are fully protected. Your personal assets are fully protected if you still have assets that are in your personal name, okay? So that is one way. The other way is if you have a business trust, you can actually use it to conduct business, okay? So that means that you can actually, instead of you opening up an LLC, a trust is superior to an LLC. An LLC, you went to the Secretary of State's website or just the Secretary of State to set up that entity, okay? So that is what we call a statutory entity. So you have actually given the state jurisdiction over your company and the rights to regulate your company and the rights to shut down your company whenever they feel like it. If you didn't fill out an annual report, guess what? Your company is dissolved, okay? So a trust is superior to an LLC just from that standpoint. So if you wanted to open up a new business and you didn't want to go down that route, then you could actually operate that business with your business trust, okay? So let's just say that you're utilizing it as a holding company, right? Well, what you can do is now this business trust is the owner of the LLC. Whatever money that is generated from the LLC, it's a pass-through entity, so it'll pass through to the owner, okay? So that means that 100% of that money is going to go to the business trust. So now that it's at the business trust, right? At the business trust, I just told you guys, the business trust, with that, you actually spend the money first and you're taxed on what's left over. So if $100,000 came into the business trust, What you want to do is you want to do all of your business expenses, all of your deductions. You want to spend it down, and then whatever is left over, you'll pay taxes on, right? But a business trust or trust in general, they are actually taxed at the highest tax bracket. The highest tax bracket is 37%. So that's the way that they're taxed. Why? Because the government doesn't want you to use trust, because they know how powerful it is. That's why they're taxed at the highest tax bracket. So the way that you get around this is by what I'm about to tell you. So you're going to expend your business expenses, right? Everything that has to do with running the business. Out of that 100,000, let's just say that you had 20,000 in business expenses. Now you have $80,000 that's left that you're about to be taxed 37% on. So instead of you deciding to be taxed on 37%, what you can do is you can actually distribute that money to the beneficiary of the trust. And now the beneficiary of the trust is going to be required to pay taxes on that 80,000, okay? So what you're going to do is you're going to make the beneficiary of your business trust your family trust, okay? So now that 80,000 went to your family trust, and now on the business trust level, you are actually at a zero tax liability, okay? Because you distributed the 80, you expended the 20, and there's zero left, okay? So now that 80,000 is at the private family trust level, and that's income. Well, you spend the money first, you get taxed on what's left over. So you're going to expend as much as possible, right? Because when it's at the family trust, what you're going to do is you're going to spend on your family, right? You got mortgage, you have utilities, you have gasoline, you have gasoline, you have car note, you have all of these expenses, kids tuition, groceries, all kind of stuff, right? And so what you want to do is you're going to expend whatever is associated with your family, and then the leftovers is what you're going to have to pay taxes on, right? So if you're going to pay taxes, again, it's going to be taxed at 37% because the business trust and the family trust are for-profit entities, okay? So you got to file a 1041 with the IRS. Well, the same thing applies, right? You could donate it to the beneficiaries, but the beneficiaries of your private family trust are your children. So you don't want your children to be taxed. So the alternative is for whatever's left over. Out of that 80,000, let's just say you expended 70 and there's 10. Instead of you giving the IRS 3,700, that 10, you're going to donate it to your tax exempt trust, okay? And at that point in time, you're done paying taxes. So the private family trust, you are now having a zero tax liability. And at the tax exempt trust level, that there's several different names for it, but that specific entity is exempt from paying federal taxes, okay? It's the only mandatory exception for not having to file a 501c3. So it's automatically exempt. Why? Because there's something called the separation between church and state, okay? So this entity can actually be labeled as a church, as a ministry, as a faith-based organization, okay? But ultimately, it's a nonprofit and it's a tax-exempt organization, okay? So that's exactly what it is. So you do not file federal taxes. You also qualify to be exempt from state taxes, city taxes, county taxes, property taxes, sales taxes, okay? So that's a beautiful thing. And like I told you guys earlier, if you're a W-2 employee, you can donate your W-2 income up to 60% into that tax exempt trust, and then you're only going to be taxed on 40% on the personal side on your 1040. So this could actually help you save thousands of dollars. All right, so let me check on the people. Hold on one second. Let me check on the people. All right, so how is the information so far, you guys? You guys are paying attention? You guys are learning? So drop some fireballs in the chat, drop some gems in the chat if you guys are learning. Let's see. Let's see what the chat. Outstanding. Okay. Outstanding. I love that. All right. Hold on for me 1 second. All right. So now we're about to go into the second pillar. And the second pillar is, hold on, I gotta send somebody the Zoom link. So the second pillar is credit, you guys. Let's see. It says, I am definitely catching it. Okay, awesome, awesome. So people are catching it. I love it. I love it. I absolutely love it. Okay, hold on for me 1 second. There it is. Copy. All right. Okay, guys. You are so detailed. I love it. You guys are amazing. Okay, so give me about maybe another 10, 15 minutes of your time. And then after that, I'm going to show you guys what a trust looks like. And after that, we can do a couple some Q&A, okay? So write down your questions because I'm not going to answer them right now. I will answer them in like the next 10 minutes. I just want to wrap up the formula, the wealth building formula, okay? Because I got some more gems to drop. Come on now, guys. Did y'all think that I was really done? Javier Vega. Okay, he put all the fireballs in the chat. Is only Javier the only one that's putting fireballs in the chat? Hold on, let me see the chat. Let's see. Okay, all right, Nicole. All right. Bland. All right, Andrew, Spain. Okay, thank you guys. Okay, listen, you guys are the reason why I want to keep going, okay? So let me keep dropping these gems because that's what you guys came here for. And I see some questions in the chat. Please save those questions. I'm about to wrap up this webinar and then we can go through some Q&A, okay? So let's see here. Let's get back to the presentation. I hope y'all like this presentation. My VA did a good job. So all right, so now we in the second pillar, which is credit, you guys. So the way that you build wealth is through OPM, other people's money, okay? And that is by way of loans, lines of credit, credit cards, okay? So the first thing is that you have a tax-exempt nonprofit within your structure. So guess what? You get to tap into nonprofit grants, okay? And you can use that money to invest or do other things, okay? So that's one. The second thing is you actually get to build credit with your trust, okay? So you get to build business credit with your business trust. Just like you would build business credit with your LLC or your corporation, right? You're actually going to have an EIN for your business trust. And now you're able to get a credit profile, get lines of credit, credit cards, loans, everything. There is no limit to what type of funding and what type of credit you can get with a trust, okay? So that's definitely what you want to do because right now you're tapping in with your personal credit, right? But if you tap in with business credit, you're going to qualify for higher lines of credit, okay? Because financial institutions, they give higher lines of credit to businesses. That's one. Two, you are the credit scoring system is different, right? So on the personal side, you got your FICO, your 350 to 850. On the business side, you got your Paydex, which is 1 to 100, right? And it's different. So you might as well tap in with a second credit profile. You don't want to max out all of the credit that's on your personal credit. You might as well build a second profile with your business trust. And now you're able to liquidate those credit cards, right? And use them to invest. So let's just say that you got qualified for a credit card for $50,000 with Capital One, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, you name it, right? Well, what are you going to do with that credit card? You're going to strip that credit card, okay? So now we're going to move on to the next pillar, which is invest, guys. This is the most important thing, so please pay attention. This is the most important thing. So when we're talking about investing, there's two investments that I recommend, okay? So the first one is for you to start doing infinite banking by way of an index universal life insurance policy. And then the second way is real estate, okay? So let's talk about the policy. You want to put yourself in a position to where you're paying yourself first. So one, you're using OPM, other people's money, but two, you're now going to pay yourself first. Why? Because this insurance policy is going to act as a private bank. Okay, so now you're going to be into private banking or infinite banking, okay? And we are so used to paying ourselves last, second, third, fourth, fifth, like, no, right? And so the way that you're doing that is by, let's just say you're a W-2 employee, okay? Well, the IRS took their money first, then Social Security, then Medicare, then your 401k. And by the time it gets to your checking account, literally you have the leftovers. Let's just be honest. You paid everyone else first before yourself, okay? So now that you got paid and that money went to your checking account, what is the first and second and third thing that you do? You pay your mortgage or your rent, your car note, you put gas, you buy groceries, you pay the kids' school, you do everything else, right? So let's just say you got $5,000 that came in, right? You pay everything else, and then you're left with $1,000, and you leave that $1,000 inside of your checking account. That is not you paying yourself first. That is you paying yourself last. And that $1,000, that's all you have to invest now, right? So you're doing yourself a disservice. You're doing your family a disservice. You're not building wealth. And if you are building wealth, you're building it slow. So the way that you build it fast is by paying yourself first. And the way that you do that is by way of the IUL policy. So the concept of you paying yourself first is when you get paid, that $5,000, instead of you paying the mortgage, the groceries, the car note, you're going to actually put that money into your policy. Why? Let me tell you about the policy. One, it's tax-free, right? So you get to build your money gets to compound, right? Tax-free. So that's a beautiful thing. Two, it's a liquid asset, okay? Three is you actually, with the index, Universal Life is actually tied to the, it mirrors the index, right? So let's just say that the S&P 500 is doing 10%, right? So now what's going to happen is the insurance company is going to match that 10%, and they're going to give you 10% on your cash value. So what cash value is, it's where you get to actually build value, cash value, or you accumulate cash inside of your policy, right? This cash, you can use it as collateral, right? There's so much things that you can do. So that $5,000, you deposited it into your IUL policy. Now your cash value went up by 5,000, okay? So at this point in time, what is going to happen is you are going to earn compound interest off of that 5,000, which is a beautiful thing. That is how you're going to build wealth, okay? And one thing is that 5,000, you need that money to pay your mortgage and to put groceries in the fridge. So what you're going to do is, because this is a liquid asset, the insurance company is going to look at your cash value as collateral. And so they are actually going to, you're going to request a loan from them for the 5,000. So usually they don't give you the whole 100%, but they'll give you like 95, right? So now you're going to borrow out that 4,800, let's just say, right? And they're going to issue you that loan. And they direct deposit it into your bank account. And now you're able to pay your mortgage, your groceries, put gas in the car, and do everything that you're supposed to do, right? And so this turnaround time is small, like 3 days. So just imagine you being able to save $5,000 and investing it and flipping it and compounding it versus the $1,000 that's the leftovers after you done paid the mortgage company, Bank of America, the car company, Carvana, the grocery company, you know, whatever grocery, wherever you get your groceries from, right? So just imagine that. So now you're able to actually make compound interest off of the 5,000 versus the 1,000, right? And that loan that you just received back into your bank account, that loan does not need to be paid back, which is a beautiful thing. It's actually going to be taken out of the death benefit of your insurance policy. So your 5,000 is going to remain inside of the insurance policy, gaining compound interest, making the 10%. And you just borrowed the insurance company's $5,000 in order to pay your bills. That is how you're going to build wealth, okay? So the next one is real estate. Did you know that you can get a real estate investment loan? It's called a debt service ratio loan. So you go ahead and buy a house for real estate investment purposes, and you got to come up with 20% down payment, and the mortgage company or the finance company will put the 80%. Did you know that you can get a mortgage with a trust? So now you're putting the trust in position to where the trust is now going to acquire real estate, okay? But you got 20% down payment. Where is that going to come from? Well, it's going to come from OPM because you build business credit with your business trust. And you just got a line of credit or a credit card for $50,000. You're going to use that $50,000 as down payment for this real estate investment house, right? Property. So what's going to happen is you're going to strip that credit card, but before you put the down payment on the house, you're actually going to park that $50,000 inside of your index universal life insurance policy. So now that your cash value went up by 50,000, right? And now you're able to borrow out that 50,000, and now you're able to use it as a down payment for the house. So the 50,000 is working inside of the policy, and now it's working inside of the house because now you're making cash value, you're making cash flow on that house. And so that rental income is coming in, and guess what? Guess what you're going to do with the rental income? You're going to park it inside of your IUL policy, borrow it back out, pay the mortgage, and pay the business credit card. And then the rest is going to stay inside of the trust fund. Why? Because you're putting the trust estate in a position to where it's actually going to generate its own income. You are not going to put yourself in a position to where you're pouring in your W-2 money into your trust estate. You are intentional about building generational wealth. So this is how you build the generational wealth. So we're almost going to wrap it up, you guys. So how to actually transfer the wealth, right? You want to put yourself in a position to where you own nothing but control everything. I'm going to say it again because it's so profound. Put yourself in a position to where you own nothing but control everything. That is actually the definition of stewardship, okay? So that is what you guys want. You want to be good stewards of your wealth, okay? You don't want to be focused on ownership because we just said in the beginning of this call that if you have a house in your name, that house is going to end up through the courts, right? And that house is going to outlive you anyways. Right? So you might as well control it while you're alive versus trying to own it while you're alive, okay? That's the goal. So on the other thing is TCUs, trust certificate units, okay? So with the trust certificate units, those are just like stock certificates. So you know how stock certificates represent ownership in an actual company? Well, TCUs represent beneficial interest inside of a trust, okay? So that is how you're able to give those out to your beneficiaries. And then the last thing I'm going to talk about is preservation, because a lot of us, we never even think this far in terms of preserving our wealth, right? We're just so focused on making the wealth, right? Making the $1 million, making the $1 million, but how are you going to preserve the $1 million? I know that you guys have seen it where these famous families, these athletes, all of these people in the media, right? Where they have millions, and then by the second and third generation, the millions are gone and the family is broke. You do not want that to happen. You work so hard to acquire that asset. You work so hard to generate that money. You want to preserve the wealth, okay? And so the way that you do that is by way of the insurance policies, guys. So I just spoke to you guys about the IUL policies. Well, there's a certain way that you need to do it. One, these policies need to be structured the right way, okay? So that is super important. The second thing is that the trust is going to be the owner of the policy, the payer of the policy, paying those premiums, and the beneficiary of the policy, right? Because if anything and the trust is actually going to insure you, right? The trust is going to insure you. The trust is going to insure any of the other trustees and the beneficiaries, because you guys are considered human assets, right? Your human capital when we're talking about the trust. The trust cannot run itself. It needs you to run it. If anything were to happen to you, guess what? The trust is at a loss. If the trust is experiencing a loss, the trust needs to be compensated for that loss. So if anything were to happen to you, and you have an insurance policy on you, that death benefit is going to go to the trust fund. And now the trust is replenished because it just received a death benefit of $2 million, right? So that's one of the tools you're going to use for preservation. Okay. So one, you need a trust. And two, you need the insurance policies for you and your family. It's not just you. Okay. So it's everyone that's associated with the trust, plus the future beneficiaries, because you talking about generational wealth. Well, what about the generation, right? There's multiple generations. You have 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 generations down the line. So one of the rules that you're going to put inside the trust is that the trust or the trustee is going to take out a policy on every single beneficiary born into that trust estate. So once that baby, that trust fund baby, right? We need to normalize trust fund babies, okay? Trust fund baby is a good term. That's what we want them to be. We want them to be trust fund babies. So with that trust fund baby, once that baby's 30 days old, guess what? The trustee is going to take out a policy on them. They're going to be the insured. The trust is going to pay into that policy, okay? Every single year, every single month, every single quarter. And now, let's say fast forward into the future, 18 years old. Well, that trust fund baby needs a college tuition, a vehicle, a condominium, right? And so what's going to happen is they can either go out to the dealership and get out an auto loan, run their credit, start paying the dealership, $500, $600, $700 a month. Or what they can do is they can go to the trust and they can ask for a loan, right? So if they ask for a loan from the trust, then what's going to happen is the trustee is going to cut them a check, issue them a check for whatever they need. Let's just say it's $50,000, right? They need $50,000 for tuition, books, and a brand new car. Well, they issue that loan for $50,000 and the beneficiary signs a promissory note. And now the beneficiary can actually start making monthly payments to the trust, right? And so now the trust is earning a little bit of interest, and that's actually preserving the wealth, right? Which is a beautiful thing. But let's just say that beneficiary decides to default, right? They stressed out, can't make the payments. That's it. It's done. Well, it was actually a risk-free loan. And the reason it was a risk-free loan was because the money, the $50,000, did not come from the trust fund. The $50,000 actually came from the insurance policy, right? That was taken out when that baby was 30 days old, okay? So what happened is the trustee took out a loan or borrowed from the policy, from the IUL policy, the 50,000. So the 50,000 was a direct deposit into the trust fund account, and then the trustee issued the beneficiary a check for the 50,000. So that is how you're going to preserve the wealth, right? And the beautiful thing about that is because it was a loan from the insurance company, it's risk-free. So that loan doesn't really need to be paid back. It's going to be paid back with the death benefit. So when that beneficiary, passes away, the trust fund is going to be replenished, okay? So that is the tools that you need in place in order to build generational wealth, okay? So let's wrap it up, you guys. Let's work together. So I actually do have a course where I teach you all this information. Okay, so the course has 42 video modules, and it actually has the templates for the 3 trusts that I was telling you about: the business trust, the family trust, and the tax exempt trust. Okay, so you get lifetime access to the course. You get all the resources that you need in order to set up the trust, in order to pay taxes, reduce your taxes, in order to build wealth, in order to learn how to build credit with the trust, in order to learn about infinite banking. You learn how to open up a bank account, a brokerage account, how to transfer your house into the trust, your cars, all these things, right? You get ebooks too. So these are the books that I recommend, if I could find it. I recommend What Would the Rockefellers Do?, The Art of Passing the Buck, Volume 1 and 2, Family Wealth, and The Complete Book of Trust. So you actually get those with the course, plus a Facebook community with over 200 and something trustees that have actually gone through the process. They're operating in their trust, okay? So the course is only $9.97. And then the second option is Done With You, where you're able to, we can do it as a group. It's a workshop, right? It's 1 week long, and we go Monday through Friday. So it's 5 group of Zoom calls. On Monday, we set up the business trust. Tuesday, we set up the private family trust. Wednesday, we set up the ministry trust. And then on Thursday, we apply for EINs, we do board meetings, promissory notes, and we establish business credit. And then on Friday, we learn how to transfer our assets. So we learn how to transfer the house, the car, and the businesses, and we learn about infinite banking, okay? So you get that accountability. It's like super, super, super valuable to do it with a group versus by yourself, because you learn more, because people, they ask questions that you wouldn't even know that you wanted to ask, okay? And so then you get assistance, right? You get the accountability, and then you also get access to the course and the community and the resources and all that stuff. So the workshop is $2,500, you guys. And then the last option is where you want to do it private sessions, one-on-one. You get individualized support. I actually set up the trust for you guys, and it's a whole nother experience. You get extended support. So the private sessions are $10,000, you guys. So now what I want to do is I want to show you guys what trust looks like. Hold on one second. Let's see here. Hold on. All right. Oh, I see we got some hands raised. Okay, so we're about to do some Q&A. Give me 1 second. I want to show you guys what a trust looks like. I also want to show you what the actual course looks like. So let me share my screen here. Let's see. My technology is a little funny. Here we go. So this is what the actual course looks like, you guys, okay? So like I said, you got the 42 video modules. So you're going to watch the video and then you'll be able to download the template for the trust and set it up yourself, okay? So you learn what is a trust, the different parties involved, so you know how to actually structure it the right way. And then you learn how to set up the ministry trust first. So we go through everything, the family trust, then the business trust, then you learn the tax strategies that you need in order to reduce your taxes by over 60%. And then you learn how to protect your assets. So you're going to do an inventory of your assets. Then you're going to open up bank accounts, brokerage accounts, and transfer your assets. And then you're going to learn the wealth creation, right? Which is OPM, right? Building business credit for the business trust. And then utilizing that in order to invest as well as do infinite banking. And then you get the resources and the ebooks. So let me show you what the actual trust looks like. Okay, so let's see. This is what an actual trust looks like, okay, you guys? So this is, so you see everything that's in red, that is what you guys are going to be filling out and customizing for your business or for your family, okay? So everything that you see here are the different sections and provisions that you're going to be customizing for your family, okay? So that is what an actual trust looks like, you guys. So we are all done. Stop sharing. We're all done. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the floor for Q&A. So if you guys have any questions, just let me know. And another thing is that I want to tell you guys two things. One, we have payment plan options available. So if you're interested in the program, just know that you can pay little by little, okay? And then the second thing is that only for the people that are on this call today, right? You guys will be able to get 20% off, okay, for the next 24 hours. So if you want to get 20% off, you're going to use the discount code TRUST20, okay? So just use the discount code TRUST20 and then you are able to get 20% off. And if you don't have the full 20%, because with the 20% discount, you do have to pay in full. If you don't have it, then what you can do is you can actually secure a small deposit of $200 in order for you to actually take advantage and keep that discount at 20%. So that's all I have for you guys. I have two hands up. So let's dive into to Q&A. The first person that I see here, hold on. Anita.
Elania, a real bae.
A real bae. Okay, babe.
It means God favors the called out one.
I love it. God favors the called out one. I love it.
Yes, ma'am. You are outstanding. You are very knowledgeable. I am so happy. I was on Instagram and I ran across you. I said, I gotta follow her.
Thank you.
And so I've been following you and I had gotten a mentor who was also very knowledgeable in trust, but he is nothing like you. You are outstanding. You are giving detailed information. I mean, I'm ready to ditch him and come to you.
That is so funny.
Christina, let me say something really quick because I just stepped out. Can I say something?
Yeah, okay, Go ahead. Go. So Marvin is my partner, you guys. This is the person that you're going to learn infinite banking from. So he has actually been a financial advisor for over 18 years. So Marvin, you have the floor.
I still have a question.
Okay, I'm going to answer your question.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, one moment. Go ahead, Marvin.
Okay. Look, you all, I am, unfortunately, I could not be on to do a presentation, a full presentation. Typically, I do. I have my team, they came in from out of town today, so I'm out with them. But I just wanted to come on really quick just to say that you already know, just based off the information that you heard, but I will tell you that the reason why I work with Christina is that Christina is the GOAT when it comes to trust. Like, I have been in this industry for 18 years, Hall of Fame financial advisor, and I've listened to several people talk about trust. I've purchased a trust before, over $40-something thousand. That's not even as good as the one that Christina, I'll say one, but Christina offers 3 trusts at like literally less than 1/10 of the cost. And she's the best that I've ever heard. and I've heard several. So I just wanted to make sure I kind of reiterated with you all that this 20% off, make sure you take advantage of it, because think about it, you're going to have to do it anyway. So why wait? So what I tell people is that procrastination is the assassination of your destination. You all are looking to build wealth. You all are looking to grow. You all are looking to be legacy builders. You cannot be a legacy builder if you don't do things that a legacy builder would do. Legacy builders should build legacies. You can't build a legacy without building a trust, without having a trust. If you own it, you're not wealthy, right? Wealthy people know the first rule to being wealthy is not to be wealthy.
Right.
Which means wealthy people know that they must own nothing and control everything. Lady Billionaire just said, I worked with a guy that charged 50K. And that's exactly right. Like people think I'm joking when I say that these prices are 45,000, 50,000. And I'll tell you this, you can search all around. You will not find the type of value that you're going to get like the value you'll get with working with Christine. I keep telling her because, you know, we kind of bounce ideas off of each other from time to time. And I tell her all the time, I said, Christina, look, you are not charging enough. You're not charging enough for the value that you have. And she keeps saying, I'm going to increase my prices. I'm going to increase my prices. And every time I'm watching, seeing if she's going to increase her prices, she hasn't increased it yet, you all. So I'm saying that to say that I'm going to be talking to her again. And I'm going to be like, Christina, look, for the sake of what you deserve, you have to increase your prices. Because everybody who does trust with her, they say, Christina, you robbed me. You robbed me. The amount that you charge, they said, you robbed me. So I'm just saying that to let you all know, like, I hope you can feel it. Like, this is not me just saying this. I get no benefit out of this from telling you to do this. I'm just telling you what I believe deep down in my heart and what I want you all to do. I want you all to be legacy builders. So when I talk about you building your infinite banking, your IUL, your whole life, your cash value insurance policy as one of the first assets and putting that asset into the trust, you need to have a good trust if you're going to do that, to make it irrevocable, to make it where nobody can take it from you. Nobody can rob, steal, or destroy it, right? So again, that's all I wanted to come in and say. Again, I don't have time for a full presentation today. Just know that you can make money multiple times off the same dollar and you can protect it with the trust. So Christina, I'm going to turn it back over to you. I just wanted to give my 100% stamp of approval on what she does because it's amazing.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Marvin. I appreciate that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And yeah, Marvin is right. He has been begging me to increase my prices, and I'm like, no, I want to help as many people as I humanly can. So right now the community is over 350 people. The goal is to get it to over 1,000. So, you know, if you guys are ready to set up your estate so that you don't have to drag your family through probate, then just know that you can get it set up through the Wealthy Trustee program. So I am going to continue to answer a few questions for like the next 15 minutes.
Me. Don't
Yeah,
forget
go ahead.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to ask a couple of questions just about that. The first question is, you speak about the IUL. Who do you get that from? Is there?
Okay. So it's through Marvin, the guy who just spoke, Marvin Mitchell. Yes, the financial advisor. So the thing that I love about him and his company and his team is that they actually reduce their commission. So one, they structure it the right way. So if you are going to get your IUL policy set up, you need to make sure that it's structured the right way, okay? Because a lot of people, they'll structure it, but it won't be for you to get the most amount, for you to build the most amount of cash value and for you to have the least amount of death benefit. So they don't structure it the way that you need it to. Another thing is, if you want to build the most amount of cash value and you want to do it fast, the insurance agent needs to reduce their commission by, I think it's like 60-70%. So so that's what you want. You want to get with companies and people and agents that are actually going to do it the right way, okay? Because not all IUL policies are the same.
How much do they cost to get an IUL?
You can actually start. you can start with whatever you want. So you can start with, $50, $100. So it depends on the company and what their minimum is, but usually the minimum is like 50 to $100. It's something really low.
Is that like Mutual of Omaha? And how do you get in touch with Marvin?
Yeah, I'm going to put Marvin's link in the chat. So if you guys want to get in contact and book a call with Marvin and his team, I'm going to put the specific link there because they need to know that you actually are having a trust or setting up a trust. Because if you don't have an IUL policy right now, you want to set up your trust first and then get the policy. But the application process takes 3 to 6 weeks. So you can start the application process. Just know that it's going to be owned by your trust. Okay. So that's the most important thing. And so he has an actual special department just for you guys that are going to be having your policies owned by the trust, have the trust be the payer of the policies and the beneficiary of the policies. Okay. So I'm going to put that link in the chat as well. So just give me a minute and I will put all the links that you need. Aya, can you put those links in the chat?
Do you notarize? Do you notarize the certificate of trust and the declaration of trust before you do the IUL or after? Or how does that work?
Yeah, so you want to have everything finalized before you start the IUL. So you would get everything notarized.
Okay. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
You're so welcome. It's an absolute pleasure. Thank you for being here tonight and for staying with me for a whole hour and 20 minutes. I appreciate that.
Yes, ma'am. You are quite welcome.
You could have been anywhere in the world right now doing anything. You decided to hang out with me.
I came in, I had to help a friend. She ran out of gas and I came in inside, took my bath and I looked at my phone. I'm like, dang, the meeting. And so I missed maybe about 20 minutes of it, but I still I took a lot of notes. I took from the time I did, I think I took like 4 pages of notes. I used to be a social worker, so I'm used to jotting stuff down really fast, writing fast.
All right, that's awesome.
Great information.
So I went ahead and put all the links that you need. So I put the links for you to enroll into the program. The links if you want to make a deposit so you can secure the 20% off. So it's trust 20. I'm sorry, I put the wrong code there. So it's trust 20 in order for you to get the 20% off. So next we have Kenya. Hey Kenya, how are you? Oh.
I'm here, sorry. So thank you again. I took the whole of the course that you had last week, but it's always good for you to have these because we learn there's things I didn't learn that week, so I'm learning it now. So one of the question that my husband had was like, how soon can you take money out of the life insurance policy?
Oh, that's a good question. It depends. So some policies, it depends on the carrier, but you can take it out within the first 30 days. So
okay.
Yeah, so the other thing is that there's something called a surrender charge. You have to pay into that surrender charge before you can borrow out. The surrender charge is a security deposit, okay? So just be mindful of that. Just know that there's a security deposit that you get back after a full year of having your policy and you didn't cancel it. You get that security deposit back. It goes back into your cash value. So let's just say that your security deposit is like $1,500, right? So let's just say that you had deposited $3,000 in there. Well, the $1,500 is going to go to the surrender charge, and then the other $1,500 out of the 3 is going to go into your cash value. Okay, so then you'll be able to borrow 15 from the cash value, not the whole 3.
Okay. Now you get it. The question when it comes to the life insurance, we had to have a life insurance for each of the family members, right? For each of our kids.
It's recommended.
Okay. And another question, I believe it's my last one. So we have a property, right? And because we want to open, when it comes to family trust, we want to open several because we have several property. We have like 2 properties out of state, like in Massachusetts. So the process, I will have to figure out the paperwork to be able to do the transfer from Massachusetts to the trust.
Yeah, so you're definitely going to do the quit claim deed to transfer that property, and then you just need to find out where to submit the quit claim deed to. So you're going to submit it to the county where the property is.
Okay, and this is my last question. So, like for example, this property that we have now, right? We are both in the deed. Will he be able to put be the grantor, and I could be the trustee,
For
or
the
it's a
property?
conflict?
No, he can. He
Yeah,
can
like
do it. No, it's not a conflict of interest. If both of you guys are on the deed, it's not a conflict of interest.
okay, so he will be able to be the grantor and then pass it to me as a trust, as a trustee,
Correct. He can deed it over to the trust.
and
And
then he have a LLC. So that LLC he will put it into the business account instead
into
of
the,
putting it into the family, right?
yes, that's correct.
Business trust into you put your LLC into the business trust. Okay, thank you so much. You know I'm gonna join every meeting, and I'm
Yes,
always gonna have questions. I was
yes.
in the
So,
gym while
so
I was
Kenya, for the students, I have a private meeting next week, okay? So we're gonna do Q&A next week at 6 p.m. on Zoom, okay? So that's for you guys and everyone who's in the community already, okay?
send a link,
Yeah, it's gonna be
but you know,
yeah, it's gonna be in the Facebook community, and then I'll send out the Zoom link.
you know what I'm having trouble with, that when I open the link for the trust, the format, I'm not able to put in the information. Like it's not allowing me to put in the information. I don't know why. So what I did was, throughout the meeting that we had that week, I just printed everything out, and I was just taking notes there so I could refer back to it. But like any of the trust, I'm able to download it, but I'm not able to, like where the red words are, I'm not able to input the information. So that's why I
So
haven't
it
even.
sounds like you don't have a version that you could edit. So just what I think the best thing for to do is for you to get the Google Docs version. So I'll go ahead and send that over to you, okay?
Okay, yeah, send me all the information because I printed out, but I'm not able to. So I would really appreciate that.
Okay, you're welcome. You're welcome. All
All right,
right.
thank you.
You're welcome. Next we have Nicole. Hi, Nicole. How are you?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, perfectly. How are you doing?
Okay, I'm doing well. I'm at work, so I'm going
Okay.
to go really, really fast with my
Okay.
question.
Okay.
Okay, did you say that if you're not using your current LLCs or your LLCs, that they automatically dissolve?
If you don't renew it with the state.
Got it. Okay, next question. Um, should you really have a business before we get started with any program that you have?
Should you have a business? If you don't have a business
Mhm.
yet, then you don't
Yeah,
have to start a business. You can just operate the business trust as your business. So let's just say that you're
right,
a consultant or a coach, or you're doing online, retail, commerce, e-commerce, whatever it is. You can operate that business as a business trust. You don't need an LLC or a corporation or a nonprofit or any of that other stuff, okay?
right. So you
Yeah.
can operate your business as a trust.
Mm-hmm. As a trust instead of an
And you-
LLC. They're both entities.
Okay, got it. All right. And then, okay. And so the other question is, can I put someone in a policy or someone who has a property, the owner, who doesn't understand any of this? Could I do that for them so that later on, me and my siblings are protected? For example, I have been willed things in the past, and luckily I didn't lose it because my dad left so much money in the bank, and we didn't even know he had passed away, but they contacted me, and it wasn't a joint account, but somehow I was the beneficiary or something like that. I got the money, it was no problem. But I'm getting worried about these properties because my dad put the will and all of that, and now they're saying that it's going to be a probate thing. I don't think he understands what's going to happen. And my mother has a property, and I don't think she's going to understand it. Is there any way you can bypass the person who doesn't understand?
They have to sign. Unless you have
Got
power
it.
of attorney over them. Do you have power of attorney over your parents?
No, I do not.
Yeah, you need power of
Okay.
attorney in order for you to sign on their behalf. And they can, that's easy. You can easily get power of attorney over them, especially if they're still of a good sound mind. Um, but
Mm,
yeah, so whoever's currently on the deed for the assets or the property, whoever the current owner is, that is the individual who has to deed over or transfer the title or ownership to the trust.
okay. All right. And will you be recording this one tonight? Because I'm going to have them listen to it.
Oh, that's a good question. So the recording is on YouTube. So this is live on YouTube right now, and you can watch the entire thing from start to finish on YouTube. So I will drop the YouTube link in the chat right now. Please subscribe to the channel. I would really appreciate that. I have so much information and content on trust. You guys will learn a lot just from my free content, okay?
Okay.
So I will drop that in the chat for those of you guys who want to subscribe and want to re-watch this webinar. So thank you so much, Nicole. I appreciate those good questions.
Okay, good. And I do have another question. Last question.
Okay.
What if I had set up a trust in the past
Uh-huh.
and um I went out of contact with that trust. I even closed the bank account. It was the bank was Wells Fargo, and I heard some bad stuff about Wells Fargo, and then I'm not going to get into the details of what that trust was about, except for I will tell you that this had to do with foreign currency, and it's been a whole mess with the whole thing. So I stopped dealing with that trust. My question is, I still have the hundreds of pieces of paper related to the trust, but because I closed the bank account out, what happened to the trust?
So the trust is still in existence until it expires, and then once it expires, it dies.
Okay, and how did I mean?
Even though you don't operate the trust, the trust still exists.
Okay, all right.
Do you know what
So
the
all I have to
expiration date
do,
is?
no, but what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to my storage unit where it is somewhere in a binder, and I'm going to pull it out. And you're saying that I would have had to have an expiration date connected with it?
Correct.
Okay. All right. That's my homework. Okay, that's all. I'm going to start there. I'm going to subscribe to your YouTube channel, and I'm going to rewatch this recording.
All right, sounds good, Nicole. Thank you so much for being here. You
You're
have a
welcome.
great one. Next, we have
Okay,
Maxine. How are you, Maxine?
Hi, I'm great. My sister and I are online. We're through Raymond Pretler, who's on
Nice. Yes. All right, Raymond. Yes. One of my partners. Awesome.
So we have a question. So we're definitely on board for our individual, trusts and everything. However, we just had one question because we didn't know how to navigate. So our mother is from the British Virgin Islands. We're US citizens. We're from the US Virgin Islands. Now, she eventually gained US citizenship. However, now we relocated her here with us, but we do have power of attorney and everything. However, she's on fixed income, the Social Security, whatever, Medicaid, whatever that is. And so that she's on that fixed income. However, she does have uh through her British side, on the British side, she has land. And so it's oceanfront property. And so the question is are we going to be required to get a whole British attorney on that side, or can we establish a trust for her and put the British property under that, or does it have to be US?
So the trust, it depends, right? The trust that I offer, they're domestic. So it would be only US territories and US states. So it's really It's really hard for me to answer your question because I'm not familiar with whatever is going on in that country or that island. So you have to understand the laws over there first for you to make an informed decision on what you need to do with that property.
Because they said that because we're US Virgin Islands, we're like 20 minutes away. And so we have dual citizenship as far as being able to own the property and inherit it because our mother is from there. However, the question was we just didn't know how to establish the trust or how we would go about even once we get it pulled over into our names, how are we going to get it acquired into our trusts, which is American? So that's just
Yeah, so you need an international trust that'll give you the leeway to be able to use it in other islands or other countries. So that is something that I'm going to be introducing into the program this year. And if you're in the program, then you just automatically, get it because it's going to be like new modules and stuff inside of the program offering the international trust. So me, myself, I have international property as well. And so I'm working on putting it into an international trust. But
so
that's
we
what
don't have
that's
to establish it first. Like we could kind of graduate from a domestic to an international.
yeah, but I mean, it sounds like you need both because you guys live in the US, right?
And
Yeah,
now she does too. So because we're
yeah,
taking care of her here.
yeah. So you need both.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
That's what I was saying. Like you guys need multiple trusts. It's not just one trust and, one thing fits all and you're going to put everything in one trust. No, you need multiple trusts.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a good question though, Maxine. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All
All
right.
right. Next, let's get it.
Yeah, Christina, you hear me?
I can hear you now. You was waving and stuff.
Oh man, I can't even barely hear you.
You can't hear me? Hold on. No, my volume is up.
Okay,
Okay.
okay,
Yeah,
for sure.
go for it.
All right, my question is, you spoke on having the trust not in your name. What if I have one of my LLCs in my name? Is that a bad thing?
Yeah. I mean, so are you not concerned with privacy? Are you not concerned with people coming after you and knowing, what you have, things that are in
Yeah,
your name?
I'm concerned with that, but since the LLC is pretty much at the bottom and that's owned by the holding company, which is owned by the trust. If the trust is not in your name, but the LLC is, so that's still not a good thing. That can
So when you say that the LLC, so what I said was do not name the trust after yourself. You're breaking up. I can't hear you. Hello? Hello?
yeah. I mean,
Okay, I'm sorry. So you was breaking up. I couldn't hear you. I don't think it's my service, but um, can you hear me clearly?
yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, good. So what I said was do not name the trust after yourself.
Okay.
Okay, that's what I said. So what you're saying is something different. So the name of your LLC, is that your name?
That's in my name, right?
No, no,
Is that
no.
okay?
What's the name of your LLC?
It's using my last name.
Okay, so the LLC is named after you.
Correct.
Okay, all right, yes. So that is optional if you want to continue to operate that LLC that's in your name. So a lot of people that I know that have done that, they decided to either dissolve it or they'll decide to use that LLC as an alter ego.
Okay.
Can you get papers?
Yeah.
Thank you.
So hold on one second. Let me put somebody on mute. So that's up to you if you want to continue to operate that LLC that has your name attached to it. Your last name is not bad, as long as it's not your full name, because last names are very popular. So, you know, it could be anybody with the last name Williams or Smith or Johnson, right? So last name is not bad, but as long as it's not the full name, there's a lot of individuals who they have you know, legalized their name, and so their full name is the name of the LLC.
Okay. Another question is when you spoke something to the degree of like I just want to make sure I heard it correctly. When you spoke on the IUIL policy as far as using that to pay your bills, I'm assuming so that's you're gonna get a loan monthly, right, to pay your bills?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, you are. You can do it daily. You can pay into it and borrow out every single day if you want. There's no limitations. But usually the turnaround is like 3 days. So just keep that in mind.
Okay. All right. There's one more. Damn, I had one more thing. I forgot it though, but for sure.
Okay, don't worry. You can come back. So I'm gonna head over to Tony, and then whenever you think about that last thing, just let me know, okay?
Yeah.
All right, guys. We got about 10 more minutes. So Tony, I know you say you have a question. You put it in the chat that you have a question.
Yes, I have a couple questions. Just like I'm gonna try to be short because everybody had a few questions, and there's some good questions. By the way, I found you on YouTube.
Okay.
And found all your other stuff through there. I first saw your content through a YouTube short. I was like, oh, this is interesting. So I'm already subscribed.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. I appreciate that.
No problem. My question is, first, is there any net worth considerations when setting up the trust structure? And the reason why I asked that is because I'm in the process of organizing my companies. I have a holding company and several LLCs that I use in Ohio, and then I'm setting up some stuff in Wyoming. And basically, the attorney that I spoke to said that he didn't feel like a trust was a good idea for me because he didn't feel like my net worth was high enough.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I hate that. So, you do not have, a lot of people have this stigma that you need $1 million in order to have a trust. No, it's not. Remember, I told you trusts are taxed at the highest tax bracket, 37%. But you're being strategic to be able to reduce your taxes, right? So that 37% is not really going to apply to you. That's one. So is there any requirements for you to actually open up a trust fund? No, there's like no minimum. So for example, if you go ahead and open up your trust, right, it's only going to cost you the amount to actually set up the trust, the amount to actually notarize it, and the amount to actually fund it in a bank, right? So for example, when I funded my trust fund account at Truist, I funded it with $100, right? But you have other brokerage accounts and banks that their minimum is 5,000. So it depends on what bank you go to, right? Their minimum is 5,000. I've seen some banks that their minimum is 3,000. These are like Charles Schwab and like other companies, okay? So literally, like, besides you setting up your actual trust, a notary's $20 and you can, you know, fund it with $100. So it's up to you.
Okay, yeah, no, his thing was like, I think you need to be in the 5 to 10 million range, and I was like, well, I'm over 1 million, and I'm like, he's like, no, I don't think you need that. I was like, he just basically sent me on my way. My other question was, when setting up the ministry trust, because that your content was really the first time I heard about that. I'm familiar with everything else and asset protection and things like that, but the ministry trust, is there any ethical considerations considering like some of us are not into any ministry or church organizations? I'm just curious, is it just like a gray area, or is it just a thing that we set up and nobody checks?
So that is a really good question. So first and foremost, there's several different names. You don't have to call it a ministry, okay? The other name for it is a faith-based organization. You do have to have some type of faith, but it doesn't have to be religious, okay? So you could have faith in water, you could have faith in the universe, you could have faith in nature, mankind, whatever you want, right? It doesn't have to be in in a being or anything like that, okay? So that's one. Two, this type of trust is designated as a 508c1a, okay? And it is either for religious or educational. So if you want to go the educational route, you can, right? So if you are an educational company, then this organization, you'll qualify to have it and be tax exempt and operate it for educational purposes. So if you look it up on the IRS, you will see that a 508 is for religious or education organizations, okay? So it doesn't have to be a ministry. A lot of people, they decide to create a church and designate it as a 508. They decide to have a ministry and designate it. They decide to have a charity and designate it as a 508. Some people decide to open up a university and designate it as a 508.
Got it.
All right.
Thank you.
Perfect. You're welcome, Tony. Thank you so much. Next, we have TC.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, perfect. How are you?
I'm good. I'm just absorbing information. So I had two questions. I'm trying to make it quick because you said we got a little bit of time. So the first one was, when we get all of your documents from the first one, the 997 one or whatever that one is, I was wondering, how does those trust setups compare with, I guess the ones that the lawyers be charging like $40,000 from in court?
Mm-hmm.
Or has they ever been tried in court? Do you know?
So it's so funny. Listen, people charge what they want to charge, okay? So it doesn't mean that a $40,000 trust and a $2,000 trust that it's more, that it's better than the other one. You have to actually audit the trust, okay? So for example, with attorneys, they are going to set you up with a statutory trust. They're going to put all of the state statutes and codes inside of the trust. That's how they operate, okay? So with their trust, you can only use it in one state. You cannot use it in the entire nation. You cannot use it in Puerto Rico or the Virgin Islands or any of those other territories. Okay, so that is the major difference. So if you want to stay stuck to one state, then go for it. Okay, another thing is that attorneys are infamous for setting you up with a living trust. A living trust is a revocable trust. A revocable trust is ultimately not going to protect your assets. A living trust can also end up in probate if it's seen as an alter ego to where you're the grantor, the trustee, and the beneficiary. So usually attorneys will set you up that way to where you're all three. You, the grantor, the trustee, and the beneficiary, okay? And so your assets or your estate can end up in probate if there are other family members that decide to contest your living trust. So it's seen as an alter ego, meaning it's seen as the same thing as you. It's not seen as a separate entity from you. You don't want that type of trust. You want a type of trust that is seen as a separate entity from you.
That's exactly what they did.
Disregarded entity. Huh?
Yeah, that's exactly what they did. When they did it, everything you said, exactly what they did.
Who's they, TC?
The lawyers. The lawyers.
They
That's
did.
exactly.
They
Yeah,
did that to
they did
you?
exactly that. Yes.
I'm sorry.
My last question was, you were talking about taking your own income, your W-2 income, and paying for the IUL.
Perfect.
But the IUL was, I guess, started by the trust. It's funded by the trust, and the beneficiary is the trust. So do you have to do we have to actually somehow put our money in a trust before we pay it, or anybody can pay to your IUL?
So the best practice is to have the money that's going into your policy come from the trust. Can you pay other forms? Yes, you can. I'm just telling you how to operate properly.
Correct, gotcha. Thank you.
You're welcome. And all of this stuff you learn inside the program. All right, who's next? Who's next? Kenya, are you next? Do you have a question?
I have a question.
Okay, next we have George David.
I'm here.
Oh, okay. Go ahead, Kenya.
So this is because I was trying to get my on mute. So really quick, one of my concern is, right, with all these new changes that coming up with that digital currency, and how does this help us? And another thing is how I have some money saved for college purpose for my daughters. I was trying to buy silver and gold. Do you suggest I use that money and put in the IUL instead?
So I mean, you could definitely buy commodities like silver and gold, and you can put those commodities into the trust, right? So what I would tell you to do is before you buy the silver and gold, park the money inside of the policy. So whatever, let's just say it's 5,000. Park it inside of the policy, borrow it back out, then buy the silver and gold.
Okay, all right.
Okay. All right. And then for the digital currencies, it's all new and relative. So like I haven't done my due diligence to know really what's going on. So you just have to know and understand, and do your research to know where you feel like your money is safe. So for me, I have 90% of my money inside of my policies. And whenever I need to access them, I just go ahead and take out loans, because an insurance company has way more strict rules than the fractional reserve with the banks. Okay, the banks don't have that money in the bank, so your money is at risk. Yes, exactly. Your money is at risk. So there's two things that I recommend. One, instead of you, like, as an alternative, if you did not want to open up a bank account because you don't trust the banks, right? Then what you can do is you can open up a cash management account. That is with a brokerage, and they actually provide more insurance. The FDIC is what, $250. With a cash management account, you can get insurance up to $1 million. Okay, so they're gonna pay you your money back. That's one. And that's one. And then two is your insurance policy is liquid. So you can have your money just sitting in there, and when you need it, just know that it's going to be in your bank account in 2 days. So that's the way that I operate. And because I'm going to use the accounts that are more secured than the banks.
Okay, yeah, because I was just a little bit concerned with all of that. Like I went to the bank today and none of the tellers was working. I mean, not the teller, like their computer wasn't working, but the teller was. Then I went to purchase something, then the car wasn't working, like in the supermarket. So I'm like kind of concerned having money in the bank and not being able to have access once they shut everything down, because they are going to shut it down before they go digital.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah. So anyways, that was a good question. So I got to move on to the next people because we're almost at 9 o'clock. I do not want to keep people here for 2 hours.
All right, it's okay.
Sorry. Thank you. You're welcome. Okay, so we got David, then Rhea, then Danielle. All right. I mean, not David, George David. All right, George David.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hi, yeah.
All right, perfect. So I'm new to all of this information. It's fascinating. You're doing a great job of delivering.
Thank you.
It's simple, it's clear. And like my other brother said, some attorneys, they really do brush you away and take you to different avenues that you're just like, wow. I feel like I got lied to, and I got misguided and misdirected. And so I just got to give you mad props for everything you so far, at least from me, being exposed to you through YouTube is phenomenal. It's amazing. It's invaluable. Like, it's precious. It's great. You keep doing your work, man.
Thank
My
you.
question is
Appreciate
this,
that.
that I want to open my e-commerce business.
Okay.
And so I'm talking to several corporate. I was gonna go the LLC route, but now hearing you with this whole webinar today, I just wanted to know: is it just best I go ahead and completely start my base from the trust and then work my way down with when it comes to business credit lines, policy,
Yes.
insurance?
Yes, you should definitely do that. So one, if you're going to acquire assets, you want to set up the trust first before you acquire the assets. So before you acquire any LLCs or any insurance policies or starting a business, anything like that, okay? You want to set up the owner first. The owner is going to be the business trust or the holding company, okay? So that's first and foremost. So you can still open up an LLC, but the thing is that you don't want the LLC to be owned by you. So that's why you want to set up the business trust first, and then you have the business trust open up the LLC if you wanted to tap into funding or if you wanted to tap into building credit with the LLC. But you can do all that stuff with the business trust too. So if you didn't care about getting an LLC, then you can set up that business trust and start operating your e-commerce business. And then from there, you can start acquiring your assets like the insurance policies and whatever assets that you're planning on acquiring. So I would definitely tell you to go that route.
Okay, thank you so much. I'll try to. You said it was going to be for 24 hours at 20%
Yep.
discount, right?
Yep, 20%.
Okay.
Yep. So use
Okay.
the code trust50. And if you can't meet the 24 hours, then go ahead and make that $200 deposit and you will secure your 20% discount.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
You're so
You have a
welcome.
great one.
You too, George.
God bless you.
Jorge. It's Jorge.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
okay,
Hey, I
next
go with both.
you go. I know, right? All right. So next we have Ria. Hey, Ria, how are you?
Hey, sorry about that. I know with my name Ria, I kept dropping down the list because it started
Oh,
with an R. So
yeah. So sorry.
that's okay. So you did a wonderful presentation and just, ditto with everything that everybody else said. I have quite a few questions. First, how long before a trust expires or does it expire?
So you determine the expiration date by you actually determine the term, okay? So for example, these are the most two important dates, right? The first is the establishment date. So let's just say that you establish your trust today. Today is your establishment date, okay? Now, what is the term? How long do you want the trust to be in existence for? You can choose any time that you want. The industry standard is at least a minimum of 7 years to a maximum of 100. So let's just say that you chose 100 years. So now that is the expiration date. So if today is your establishment date, it's going to be 100 years from today. So today is January 16, 2024. So it's going to be January 16, 2124. That's going to
And
be the
so,
expiration date, the termination date, the death date of your estate. And it
and
needs to
then,
be renewed.
yeah, I was going to ask, and then can you renew it?
Yep.
Okay. And
It
then
needs
when
to be,
you renew it for the amount of time that you established before, or you can renew it for the amount of time you want.
it needs to be, so one, it needs to be renewed at least 30 to 60 days prior to the expiration date. And then it's going to be a renewed for the original term. So if your original term was 100, it's going to be renewed for an additional 100.
Okay, thank you. And then my next question is there a cost per year for trusts that you
Um,
have to pay? I know you do for certain states for businesses. Is there a cost per year that you have to
No,
pay?
no.
Okay,
So no, which is the lovely thing, right? So once you
yeah,
set it up, then you get to run it for 100 years.
okay. And then my next question is, for the businesses, like if you have like 3 or 4 businesses, can they all go underneath one trust, or do you suggest to make a trust for each business?
So it depends on the type of business. If you have high risk businesses, like for example, a trucking company, A trucking company is a high risk business, right? A truck can wipe off somebody off the road, right? So I would make a separate trust, a separate business trust for that specific company. And then if you have low risk companies like consulting, like an Amazon store, like a boutique, right? Those are low risk businesses. So you can have all of those businesses under one holding company, one business trust. So your business trust, the way that it's designed is it can actually hold or manage multiple entities.
Got it. Thank you. And then the other one that I have is, have you heard about the requirement for, I do taxes also, and so that the IRS has established a BOI requirement, which is started in January 1st. And I was just wondering, does the trust have to go through that? Where all businesses, it's called a beneficial ownership information.
So a trust doesn't have to go through it because it's private. And then nonprofits don't have to go through it. So it's really for corporations and LLCs. So if you have an LLC, even if it's owned by a trust, you still have to file the transparency, the Corporate Transparency Act. You still have to file the beneficial ownership interest form because you have that LLC. It doesn't matter who the owner is.
Right. Yeah, because they're saying that it has to be done within 90 days. And so and if you, it's just crazy. Okay. Thank you.
What form do you use?
Welcome.
It's actually online for the beneficial ownership information. You just, it's called BOI. But the federal government is requiring all businesses to do that starting since January 1st, 2024.
Even if you haven't used it, the LLC?
Yeah. You either got to close it.
Okay.
Yeah. But it doesn't cost anything to file the BOI. It's just, but you still have to have it done by a certain amount of time.
Yeah, I was curious
until
about
January
that.
2020. So
you have until when? You said?
You have until January 1st, 2025 before it's considered, before that $500 a day thing starts.
Yeah, 500. Okay. Yeah, so it's for 1 year, but if you start your business this year, you have 90 days.
That is awesome. So, let's see here. Okay. So thank you so much, Ria. All right, guys, it's 9:01. So I have two more people here. I have Danielle and I have Eric, and then we're going to wrap it up for this evening. I am so, excited that you guys decided to join me on this webinar and that you guys stayed for 2 hours. So Danielle Bradley, how are you doing?
I'm doing fine. How are you?
I'm doing good.
Good to hear from you again.
Nice to see you.
Yes. My question, she kind of tapped on it, the lady before me. I was wondering if you already have your LLC and it's under your business trust, and since we're trying to stay private with the new law that they want to do the BOI, how is that going to make, how are you going to stay private if they're going to know all your information because your LLC is going to be registered, it's going to, because you have to give them all your information, social and all this other information. So if you put that in your business trust, your LLC in your business trust, are you going to be private at that point?
So really, honestly, I can't answer that question because I haven't gone through it. So I don't know if they're going to accept the business trust as sufficient beneficial ownership interest. So it's and another thing is that it's only for owners that have 25% or more. So if you document that you have less than 25%, which you do, you have zero, right? Then you won't have to reveal yourself. But I don't know. I do not know, honestly, if they're going to accept the trust holding information, right? If they don't, what I've seen is that a lot of business owners are choosing to dissolve their LLCs and just to operate under trust so that they're not subject to this new law or new act. So
yeah, that's what I was
ultimately,
gonna do.
yeah. And
Yeah, I was just gonna.
me
So I
myself,
just need, I'm
yeah.
sorry. So I just need to dissolve it and then just run everything under the business trust.
Yeah, and yeah, I highly recommend it. So me myself, I have began to transition over. So I have an LLC that's called Seven Ways to Wealth, and then I have a business trust that's called Seven Ways to Wealth. So I have two separate entities with the same name, but they have two separate EINs and they're two different types of entities. So what
Right.
I've done is I've began to, like, my merchant accounts and my phone companies and stuff like that, I've begun to transition it over to where it's going to I'm doing a name change, which is not really the name that's changing, right? But the EIN. And so now it's going to be labeled as a trust versus a LLC. And I just changed the EIN number to the business trust. Yeah.
Gotcha.
I've already started the process. So it's
Okay.
up to you if you want to do that.
Okay, yeah, that's what I just wanted to know, because I was like, if it's under the business trust, and then if you have to give them all this information, then it's really not going to be private anymore. But like you said, you're still going to be doing 0%. So, but it's probably just easier to dissolve it and just work up under the trust. Okay, that was my question. You answered it. Thank you so much.
You're so
Thank
welcome,
you
Danielle.
so very much, sweetheart. You are just amazing. I don't know what to say about you, but all I'm gonna tell you right now, I pray, I ask God to bless you, to continue doing what you're doing, because you are amazing. You are
Thank you.
absolutely
I
amazing.
appreciate that. And
You have cleared up so much for me that I've had questions about, that the guy who I had as a mentor, I can't even get him to complete my logo.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry to hear that.
I
Wow.
am going through, God has reasons to draw us together. He has
Oh, for
reasons
sure.
for putting his people together. And I am so grateful. And I can't afford the 10,000. If I had business credit, I would. My credit is getting awesome. It's like 747 in FICO, but
Congrats.
I think I'm going to start low, because I'm on, Social Security, retirement. So I'm going to start with the 997, but I am going to do it.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate
I'm
that.
just going to ditch everything he gave me and taught me, and I'm just going to go with you. That's how I'm going to do that.
That sounds good. Congratulations. All right, so I
Yes,
have
ma'am.
thank you so much. I have one more question and then I do have a shout out. So, Eric, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, and amen to everything the sister just said. You are
Yes,
phenomenal.
amen. I love
The way you
it. I
delivered
love it.
information already. I'm a real estate person, tax person, and I've been looking at this trust stuff for a while. I haven't actually written it. I've studied my grandparents' trust and all stuff, but I haven't done any because I've just some of the aspects of it, the structure, I just didn't know. I hadn't taken the time to learn. But you're like a cheat sheet. So I feel like I can go and actually take the test because I got a really good cheat sheet on that. So that's what's up. But my question, I had two questions. Most of my questions got answered. But for instance, I got 14 LLCs and corps, right? And I need to get those into a trust, and that's one of the concerns I had that was brought up a minute ago as far as this BOI thing. But you can, the process does allow for you to name a trust as the beneficial owner. Somehow the exact way of doing it, I haven't done it, but I've seen it done, so I know it can be done. So you might want to look into it. Whoever else that asked, but just throw that out there.
Thank you so much. I haven't done it as of yet too, and so I only speak on things that I've experienced or done
Makes sense.
myself. Yeah. So
The only unanswered question. I had two of my questions that hadn't been answered. So the first one was specifically about funding a trust with silver and gold. So I already have silver and gold, and I plan on funding the trust with it. You made the suggestion as far as funding the trust with cash and purchasing. That's a great idea. If I didn't already have it, that might work for me. But I already have a substantial amount of silver and a decent amount of gold. So how do you propose, or how do you suggest funding the trust with silver and gold if you already have the physical silver and gold?
That's a really good question. So with every single trust, when you're establishing it, you need a consideration, right? If it's a contract, you need a consideration. And so that consideration, it could be anything of intrinsic value. It does not have to be cash. So you could actually fund your trust fund with a property, a piece of land. You could fund it with royalties. You could fund it with a precious metal. So you're going to fund your trust with precious metal. The way that you document that initial consideration is through the Schedule A in the trust. Okay, so in the trust, you're going to document what is the initial thing that you're funding the trust fund with. At that point, you're going to put how much precious metal you're putting into it. So whatever ounces of silver, you put that, or gold, you put that inside of the Schedule A, and then it's notarized with the other remaining parts of the trust. And then you store it where you store it within trust property, right? So if you have a safety deposit box that's owned by the trust, you store it inside of the trust. So that's how it's documented.
Copy that. And the last question I have is, have you had any experience with any of the trusts that's been drafted through your process? Have they been battle tested yet?
So none of my students have gotten audited or sued. So no, I'm gonna tell you no.
Okay.
Yeah. So they haven't gone through that process, and that could be because of, and me personally, I haven't gotten sued, and I've been operating for 9 years. So it could be because of proper operation, or it could be luck, or it could be, a different amount of things. So
I totally, you don't have to explain that.
I personally have been threatened multiple times because my real estate properties, my investment properties, had tenants in there. Those tenants, multiple times, multiple tenants have threatened to sue my trust, but it never went to litigation.
Okay. So, yeah, that threats aren't nothing. That's the purpose of the shield, right? To knock the threats off. But that's what's up. I do have a couple other questions, but I'm not gonna do that at this moment. I'm just gonna take the opportunity to sign up. I am in the middle of launching since it's tax season, and I'm an auto dealer as well, so I'm kind of tied up with my cash. But I am gonna jump in on your $200 stretch it out piece and then get going with you. So I appreciate you.
All right, that sounds good. Awesome. And then you could always send me a text on the number that you received the Zoom link. You can send me a text, and either me, myself, or somebody from my team will be able to answer your questions. You can always email me too. So you can email me at info@7ways2wealth. You can look me up on Instagram as well. And, and I'll be able to answer any questions that were not, being able to answered during this short webinar. I do want to shout out Tamiko Lawler. So Tamiko went ahead and took advantage of the deposit. So Tamiko is going to get the 20% off. Love it. Congratulations. So shout out to you, and shout out to everyone who is going to become a wealthy trustee and get into the community. The community is growing, you guys. Okay. So you guys have an amazing
Christina.
Yes.
Christina.
Yes.
Can I say one quick question? Because I am a 7-wealth trustee.
Go ahead.
Yes. And I just wanted to let everybody online to know that I personally did the trust. I did all 3 trusts in August, and I have had no problems. Everything went smoothly. I did the quick claim deed that went smoothly. Opening the bank accounts went smoothly. So it's really an easy process. And Christina explains it so well that when you go to do these different steps, it's with ease. That's all I can say.
Thank you
You're
so much,
welcome.
Danielle. Thank you so
You're
much.
welcome.
I really appreciate that.
You're
Yes.
welcome.
So that's what that's what we're here for. I'm very thorough. The program is very thorough. I teach you from A to Z. And sometimes people have unique situations. So just know that I'm always a resource and I'll be able to hold your hand and guide you through the process with you getting your estate up and running. So thank you so much, Danielle, for those lovely words. And I
You're
hope,
more than welcome.
yes.
Thank you for the process. I appreciate the process.
You're so welcome. I just want to help the community. Our community, we just need to normalize trust within our structure, and we need to break these generational curses, and we need to start building generational wealth the right way. We're not doing it the right way. Let's just be honest. A lot of our properties, one, they're ending up in probate, or they're being taken by the county, and our kids are not ending up with our properties. Okay. So I see it all the time. I've seen it with my neighbors, with my childhood neighbors. So I don't want that to happen. The last thing I want to mention is the workshop. So if you guys want to get into the workshops, the next workshop is February 19th to the 23rd. So on Monday, we're going to be setting up the business trust together. Tuesday, the family trust. Wednesday, the faith-based organization. Thursday, we're going to be setting up business credit. We're going to do our board meeting so we can open up our bank accounts. We're going to do promissory notes so that we can document what we are going to fund the trust fund with. And then on Friday, we're going to do the transferring of the assets, okay? So that is quick claim deeds if you have a house, bill of sale if you want to transfer a car title. We're going to do the business purchase agreement and the amendments with the Secretary of State if you're putting an LLC or a corp into the business trust. And then we're going to learn about infinite banking from Marvin Mitchell, okay? So
What
that
date? What date is it?
it's February 19th to the 23rd, okay?
That's my birthday, the 20th.
Happy birthday. That's a good birthday, actually.
I'll be 71.
Oh, congratulations. I love that. I love
Yes,
that.
ma'am.
So if you guys are interested in the workshop, just know that those are the next dates. And that's the best option, honestly, to do it as a group because you learn so much as a group versus doing it by yourself. You really do. It's a whole nother beast. And if you do the workshops, you get lifetime access to the workshops, meaning that you could attend every future workshop, and then you get the recordings from all the past workshops. So all of the recordings from last year's workshops in 2023, plus you get to attend from February on until the future, until 2025, 2026, and on. And then
I just purchased the 997 just now.
okay, let me see that. Okay. Is it Cynthia?
Yeah. Do you get the 20% off on that or no? I didn't know how to do it.
Oh, no. Okay, no problem. All right. No, I will honor the 20% off. So I'll give you a partial refund for 20%.
Outstanding.
Hey, you're
Thank
so
you.
welcome. Shout out to Cynthia. Okay, she is a wealthy trustee.
I ain't playing. I'm 70
right,
going on
you are
71.
serious.
I gotta get it together.
Exactly.
I ain't gonna promise around here, you know?
Yes, action takers are money makers. I appreciate you. Yeah, I'm looking forward to helping you through this whole process. So
Thank you so much. I
you're
really
so
appreciate it.
welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. Awesome. All right, guys. So my throat is parched. We've been here for 2 hours and 17 minutes. So you guys have an amazing week, and I will see you guys, soon. So text me or email me or, let me know how I could be a resource. So you guys have an amazing day. Thank you so much. Good night and God bless you.
God bless you too.
Thank you.
Good night.